Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you for coming to watch. So I've got guys an update on a significant derecho potential for portions of the upper plains. We're talking about potentially up to hurricane force wind gusts being possible for many people, as well as an update on the tropics, as we are talking about maybe one or two future systems to develop as these next few tropical waves emerge off the coast of Africa. I've got all the details coming right up. So thank you for joining me here on this Sunday evening. We have a lot to talk about in this video. As again, we're going to be going over the major severe weather threat for portions of the upper plains, as we have obviously that significant damaging wind threat, and then as mentioned in the intro of the video, we also do have an update on the tropics, as there's a potential for a little bit of a awakening in the tropics over the next couple of weeks. So we're going to start it here, as always, by taking a look at your current radar. You can see we have two things going on for the most part. One, we do have this little complex of storms that's currently working its way over portions of the upper Midwest here into portions of Minnesota. You can see that little complex of storms currently working its way south. So that's going to be producing some lightning, some thunder, and obviously some potential flash flooding for some areas. So again, we're going to be watching as this line continues to move south, but everything should stay sub-severe over the next couple hours. Maybe some strong storms here and there, but really nothing much other than that for the most part. And then we do also have some scattered lingering severe storms out here in portions of the Carolinas and portions of Virginia, where again we did have that minor severe weather event that did pack some gusty winds and some small hail. So if you're on the path of these storms, especially along the coastline of Carolinas, make sure you're getting yourself indoors and away from windows if you do get put under a severe thunderstorm warning for the remainder of tonight. But yeah, that's going to be pretty much it. Alright, so we're going to be moving on here to our alerts, and you can see a lot of people are not going to like this map, as what we've got going on is pretty much just a lot of heat alerts. So we have most of the lower 48 here, at least the central portion of it, currently under heat advisories. This is really stretching all the way from the upper Midwest down through the mid-Mississippi River Valley, where we actually do have some extreme heat warnings there. So upgraded from a heat advisory to an extreme heat warning. That's going to be going out for portions of western Iowa, eastern Nebraska, southeastern South Dakota, as well as portions of southern Illinois, portions of eastern Missouri, western Kentucky, eastern Arkansas, western Tennessee, and portions of western Mississippi. So anywhere in this purple area, this purple or pink area, if you find yourself living in that zone, make sure that you are staying hydrated, because again, that means you're under an extreme heat warning. So that means excessive heat is currently ongoing, and there's a potential for people to get heat stroke. And obviously, just you really want to make sure that you're staying hydrated and that you're staying cool while you're in those very, very hot zones. But again, we also do have some more extreme heat warnings for the coastal Carolina regions here. So again, the outer banks of North Carolina down through the South Carolina coastline. If you do find yourself living in that area, make sure you are staying hydrated, staying indoors, and staying cool, because again, you really want to make sure you are escaping the heat there. But really, the rest of the country looks pretty good for the most part. Some lingering air quality alerts for portions of the Northeast and New England, as we do have some of that wildfire smoke moving down from Canada, but that should be clearing out over the next couple of hours, so it really shouldn't be too big of a problem by the beginning of this week, alright? So, we are going to be moving on here to the Solar Prediction Center, the SPC outlook for tomorrow. You can see as of right now, we do have a slight level 2 out of 5 risk for severe weather, including portions of southern Montana down through southern North Dakota, most of South Dakota back into portions of southern Minnesota, northern Iowa, and far western Wisconsin. Again, we are talking about that very significant damaging wind threat. We'll get into the details in just a minute, but your tornado threat for tomorrow is relatively low. You got a 2% risk, so embedded tornadoes are going to be possible within that line. That's why we have that kind of limited 2% risk for tornadoes there, so a brief tornado or two cannot be ruled out. Our damaging wind threat is currently a 15% hatch, so this is what's driving your slight risk. I do think that if what the models are showing, if that trend does hold by tomorrow, this will likely be upgraded to at least an enhanced risk. I'm not going to throw out the moderate risk yet, because obviously we're only one day ahead and there's a lot of time for this forecast to change. But believe me when I tell you this event has room to do damage. There is a significant potential, very high ceiling, low floor event. it's almost a conditional damaging wind threat. It really depends on if storms are exactly going to erupt, and I think that based off of latest model trends and model guidance, that is likely going to happen. Alright, so finally go over to your hail risk. It is a 15% non-hatch, so again, we're also talking about the threat of large hail, obviously damage winds, but also tornadoes. So before those storms congeal into the line, you're going to have the potential to see some damaging large hail as those supercells fire off and then eventually congeal into that damaging wind line. That's really how we're kind of expecting tomorrow to play out. But we're going to get right into the breakdown starting now. So, we're going to be starting out here with your hour-by-hour breakdown for portions of North Dakota. So, you can see already by about 10 a.m., storms start to get going in the western portion of the state, all the way back into Montana. You can see some significant supercells likely dropping hail at this point. But these would likely congeal into a messy little line, but you will see this become much more organized over the next couple hours. But this is, again, already by 10 a.m. we have storm initiation. Most of these will be severe, so you have severe thunderstorms racing across the western half of the state. And you can see we already have a full-blown line of supercells currently stretching all the way from really northern portions of North Dakota all the way down to the Dickinson area, even into portions of South Dakota. So again, very widespread line, and this continues to strengthen. And look at these pockets of inflow, these little kinks in the line. Again, the HRRR being a high-res model, you can kind of see what the simulated radar would look like, if you will. And so really what this is trying to show us is that there will be spots of potential inflow within that line. And so whenever you get kind of these damaging wind bags, they're always outflow dominated. So that means that the storm is mostly made of outflow winds, which are winds kind of pushing out of the storm, and inflow winds are pushing into the storm, feeding the storm more warm air. So when you do get inflow winds pushing against outflow winds, which I'll kind of draw on the map here, whenever you see kind of a kink in the line like that, and then you get another portion of outflow winds on the backside, then you start to get these little areas of spin-up rotation. So that's what we're looking for when we're talking about embedded QLCS, or in this case, MCS, if you will, kind of tornado threat there. And so I think that's why they have the 2% tornado threat exactly for this region, is because some of the models have been pointing at the possibility of something like this happening. So these storms continue to push off to the west, and you can see really the northern portion of the line becomes a little bit less organized, and I think that's why the slight risk has been maintained farther south. But you can see back into portions of South Dakota, down here to the Aberdeen area, you can see this line is very, very strong. I mean, we're showing simulated reflectivity values of up to 70 dBz, so again, a very healthy, very strong, severe line currently moving through. But it really looks like southern North Dakota and northern portions of South Dakota are going to be hit the hardest. And again, this is going to be by the early to late afternoon hours. I mean, you're talking about storm initiation at around 9-10 o'clock, and then these storms race off to the west, and by really just about dinner time, Central Daylight Time, these storms are already working their way into portions of Minnesota. Alright, but if we take a look at your wind gust map, well, actually, I think I want to save this for the end of this portion of the video, so we're going to go right over to the Minnesota side of things. So, going over to Minnesota, I apologize for the confusion, for kind of jumping around here, but this is what we're dealing with tonight. All this kind of precipitation moving south into portions of Iowa. That's what we looked at on the radar. That's going to be irrelevant to what we're talking about today. Now, tomorrow's the big event. Well, you can see our line of storms starts to move in. You can see to the north, things become a little bit more unorganized, pretty scattered storms there. But to the south, look at this bow echo developing. You have a significant line of storms all the way from Fargo down to Brookings, North Dakota, all the way down to South Dakota there. And this line continues to bow out. And look at this signature here. I mean, you're talking about a very significant bow echo on reflectivity here. This is talking about significant outflow winds that are likely going to be producing wind gusts up to 80, maybe even 90 miles per hour in this situation. But this goes right through St. Cloud, Minneapolis, and Mankato, which are, as you guys know, very, very populated areas. So this would be a huge problem, considering that there are so many people living in the path of this damaging bow echo, which, again, this is more of a worst-case scenario, because if you look, the main part, the center portion of this bow is going right through the Minneapolis metro area. So you're talking about significant power outages and lots of damage, but I mean, this goes right through south central Minnesota, and the timing for this would be right around 7, 8, 9 p.m. Central Daylight Time. So really the early evening and overnight hours of tomorrow night is where we really need to watch for a significant damage and wind threat. But you can see this continues past Minneapolis down into portions of now Wisconsin. So you clear Rochester, La Crosse, all of you guys need to make sure that you are staying extra weather aware, because again, this looks to be a very prolonged damage and wind threat before it finally starts to fizzle out as it moves into more unfavorable conditions. But from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. All day tomorrow is we're talking about a significant damage and wind threat. Again, it's going to start out with that tornado and damage and wind threat across portions of western North Dakota, and then it's going to transition into that damage and wind threat in the overnight hours of tomorrow. So very, very busy day ahead. But move over here to the HRRR for your damage and wind gusts. So we're going to actually start out here with North Dakota, and we take a look at what these winds could look like just based off of kind of what the model is showing here. And you can see already by noon, the HRRR is having these storms already producing potentially winds up to 80, maybe even hurricane force winds widespread, I think, are going to be definitely possible. You can see in these gold shaded areas, this is where you're talking about winds upwards of 60 miles per hour, so 40 to 60 mile an hour winds are going to be possible across portions of southern North Dakota in the early afternoon hours of tomorrow. And these storms continue to move off to the east, and they continue to gain strength. Again, we're talking about near hurricane force winds. The HRRR is going for a pocket of potentially up to 90 mile an hour winds already just south of Jamestown. But really from Devil's Lake all the way down to Aberdeen is where we're talking about the threat of up to hurricane force winds. And that's just the start of our major wind bag, as you can see at the very end of kind of this glimpse of the line in the event, if you will. You can see that the pocket of hurricane force winds expands rapidly. You can see we are getting readings of over 90 miles an hour. So again, this is a very, very aggressive and concerning run of the HRRR, showing a almost catastrophic and worst case scenario situation. But we work things back over here to the Minnesota side of things, and you can see as that line continues to move through, just absolutely pounding portions of South Dakota. Now, I will say that high-resolution models do tend to overdo wind gusts, but whenever you do see a very significant signature that's overdone, this is when you get the idea and the feeling that, especially from a reliable model like the HRRR, not necessarily for wind, but just for severe weather events in general, you just really need to make sure you're paying attention. It is going for wind gusts potentially over 100 miles per hour for a very, very large stretch of land here, again, across the upper Midwest. Now, are we going to see 118 mile an hour wind gusts? No. I mean, that's almost certainly not going to happen. That is the absolute worst case scenario. Are we going to see wind gusts around or even over 100 miles per hour? That is still a possibility. Again, the HRRR is being very, very aggressive among other models. The NAM is also being quite aggressive. This has a very, very high ceiling in terms of how strong these damaging winds could get. But you can see they continue to just absolutely rip across portions of western Minnesota. You're still talking about wind gusts up to 90 miles an hour for very widespread area, all the way from St. Cloud down to Mankato. We're talking about extremely damaging, destructive winds. And this rips right through the Minneapolis metro area. This is just not what you want to see. You have a pocket of 80 to 90 mile an hour winds sitting over the Minneapolis metro area. You have winds ripping through St. Cloud, Mankato, Rochester, Minneapolis. There are going to be big problems if this does happen. Again, this is one of the more worst case scenarios. Probably a little bit overdone on this run of the HRRR. Now, is it possible that this happens? It is very, very possible. Is this exact scenario going to happen? No. The timing and the kind of direction is going to be a little bit off. I guarantee you that tomorrow. And obviously the strength. We still have this at only a slight risk for tomorrow by the Storm Prediction Center. If this were a moderate risk, I'd be taking this model run much more seriously, because that means that we have more confidence in a much more significant severe weather event. Alright? So if we had confidence that this was definitely going to happen, there would be a much higher risk on the Storm Prediction Center. Now, that is not what we have at the moment. So that's why I can tell you that this is not a 100% reliable model run, but that this is also definitely something that we need to keep watching. So as that line continues to progress, again, we're getting into the 10 p.m. time frame. You still have wind gusts potentially up to hurricane force, but then things finally start to calm down as this works its way into Wisconsin. Really, once it gets past Eau Claire and La Crosse, things should start to calm down really once we get into the overnight hours of tomorrow night into Tuesday morning. So that's going to be it for the severe weather side of things. Now we also move on to the tropics, where we take a look at the European AI model, which has been very, very aggressive with the tropics recently. We do have a tropical wave emerging off the coast of Africa, currently moving through the main development region. This is after getting into just the first few days of August. This is Friday of this week. You can see this is our tropical wave just popping off about a 10-18 millibar low, so very, very weak tropical system kind of just oozing its way through at this point now. The vicinity of the Bahamas and the Southwest Atlantic, you can see you start to get some darker greens showing up here, which is kind of a signature of some heavier rainfall rates, and you finally do get that low pressure signature, 1,012 millibars. So at this point, you have the potential to see a tropical depression. This is what the European is going for at this point, and it takes it all the way really through the south side of Florida, brings some heavy tropical rains, maybe some gusty winds, and then it gets into the Gulf of Mexico. Now, a lot of things can happen because it is a very wide open basin of bathtub water, like sea surface temperatures, if that makes any sense. So very, very warm temperatures for a pretty widespread area. What is the storm going to do? Is it going to take advantage of that, or is it going to kind of ride its way into any part of land and not really have any time to strengthen? Well, it does take its time and slows down as it's moving through the Gulf of Mexico, and it does go through rapid intensification. Again, this is very far out, so just one run of the European AI, but it does bring this into the south side of Louisiana. Again, just one model run as a 983 millibar low, not to be taken seriously. Do not tell your cousin's aunt's dog that a 983 millibar low is going to impact the south side of Louisiana. That is not going to happen. This is one run of the European AI model, but it does bring this into the south side of Louisiana, Gulf Coast, we'll say, as a 983 millibar, probably Cat 1, Cat 2 hurricane, and then it does make that technical landfall. Now, if you look at the 18Z, the 18Z shows a pretty similar situation developing. You get that tropical depression, rapid intensification, and you get a tropical storm landfall. You look at the 6Z. 6Z also shows some sort of storm making its way through the Gulf of Mexico. You look at the OOZ, the overnight run. You can see it also does have a system. So we are likely going to see that tropical wave continue to progress into the Southwest Atlantic. Is it going to develop into a named storm, potentially even a hurricane? We have no idea yet because, again, this is 330 hours out, way too far out to really get into any specifics. But that brings us to our last part of the update, which is a little bit of an easier tool to use whenever you're looking at very far out, especially tracking hurricanes here. So we look at now the European ensemble. This is putting all the ensemble runs together, all the different kind of runs of the European together into one ensemble. And this gives you kind of a spaghetti model, a bunch of different plots here and tracks showing up for basically which runs of the European model are supporting a potential low-pressure system developing. And you can see a lot of them bring these stronger tracks up through the Bahamas, and they do curve north, which means usually that when you get a stronger system, you want to gain latitude. So that's a signature that these storms will, or that this future system may want to strengthen here. But you can see some stronger tracks in here, about 984, 986, and 993 millibars. This is where we're talking about potential named storm status. Now, again, this is very far out, but quite a few tracks kind of bring this up through the main development region into the Southwest Atlantic and then curve up to the north, potentially up the coastline. Now, you will notice a lot of them do not take this into the Gulf of Mexico. Only a couple do so. So there's a lot of question marks, a lot of questions to be answered, and really we just got to continue to watch this over the next couple of days and just watch for the latest model trends. So that's all I got for you guys. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in the next video.